Okay, I guess it's 3:30. Respective moderator and speakers, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, selamat sore to everyone here. Thank you for joining our webinar series, Creating Earthquake Resilience Communities. Let us first offer our praise and gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who has given the best health for us. So today we are able to gather in this event. Let us open this event by reciting Basmalah all together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The honorable guest, to start our program today, I would like to invite the Vice Rector for Partnership and Entrepreneurship to deliver the opening remarks. So, Dr. Wing, the screen is now yours.
Thank you very much, Aida. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and I don't know, maybe evening. First of all, let us thank Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for His blessing that makes us healthy and has the opportunity to join this event. This second webinar has two objectives. First, it invites public to remember the earthquake that hit Yogyakarta and Central Java in 2006 that caused the death of approximately 6,000 people and the destructions of thousands of buildings. Secondly, this webinar also marks the establishment of the UII's Center of Excellence for Disasters Management called Simpul Pemberdayaan Masyarakat Untuk Ketangguhan Bencana, or in English, Community Empowerment Hub for Disaster Resilience. We hope the Center of Excellence can accelerate the cooperations among higher education institutions in enhancing the disaster preparedness for the whole country. I would like to thank my colleagues from the University of Gloucestershire, Michael Fuller, for spending his very limited time with us today. Also, to my UI colleagues, Dr. Arif Wismadi and Professor Sarwidi, for sharing their experiences in this webinar. I guess this is my quick welcome. Thank you very much and enjoy the discussions. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Wing, for the quick opening speech. For the next speech, I would like to invite Dr. Dwi Handayani as the Chair of Community Empowerment Hub for Disaster Resilience at Universitas Islam Indonesia. Dr. Dwi, the screen is now yours.
Thank you, Mbak Aida. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, maybe late afternoon, and good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your coming to this webinar with the title, Creating Earthquake Resilience Communities. It is an honor to meet you at this event. 15 years ago, on May 27, 2006, the earthquake hit Yogyakarta and the south of Central Java. The 27 May earthquake caused severe damage to the densely populated area. To commemorate the incident, Universitas Islam Indonesia, organized by SPMKB-UII, or Community Empowerment Hub for Disaster Resilience, Directorate of Simpul Tumbuh, cooperated with Erasmus Plus building universities in leading disaster resilience, and also BNPB, Indonesian National Disaster Management Authority, organized this webinar. SPMKB-UII is in charge of organizing trainings. The trainings aims to increase community resilience to disaster, especially for students, staff, and communities around UII, and also coordinating and documenting disaster-themed research in UII. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Michael Fuller, MBA, MA from University of Gloucestershire, Cheltenham, England. Bapak Dr. Insinyur Arif Wismadi, M.Sc, Director of Simpul Tumbuh UII. And also, Professor Insinyur Sarwidi M.Sce, Ph.D, specialized staffs of BNPB, and also a professor of UII. Thank you very much for your willingness to be a presenter in this webinar. On behalf of the committee, we'll say thank you for coming. It has been our pleasure to organize this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to seeing you at next event. Thank you for taking time to join the webinar. I wish you all a pleasant day. Enjoy the webinar. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Dwi. Yeah, it's really interesting that we at Yogyakarta also just had an earthquake this early morning. So it is like coincidence or something. So before we are moving to the next agenda, I am pleased to have a conversation with all of the participants here. So for those who have not turned the camera on, please, you might turn it on now. And currently we have 39 participants. So maybe we will have 2 shots. All right, Mbak Atta and Mbak Nur, please help me to capture the picture, okay? In 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more time. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Ibu Bapak, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to start our main agenda today. So allow me to invite the moderator for this session. Wait, let me share the short CV. Okay, can you see my screen? All right, the moderator of this session is Mr. Nurul Ihsan Saleh. He is currently serving as the lecturer at Department of Islamic Education at Universitas Islam Indonesia. So, Pak Ihsan, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, the screen is now yours.
All right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello and welcome to the second series webinar. Thank you, Ms. Aida, as Master of Ceremony, for giving me the time, and thank you very much, everyone, for joining this webinar. My name is Nurul Ihsan, the moderator for today's webinar. The theme of today's webinar is creating earthquake resilience communities. When the earthquake hit Yogyakarta and the south of Central Java, leaving about 6,000 people died and about 200,000 people were homeless. Today, webinar is pivotal to explore valuable lessons to strengthen knowledge about disaster management, especially related to earthquake. This event is brought to you by SPMKB Simpul, Pemberdayaan Masyarakat Untuk Ketangguhan Bencana, or Community Empowerment Hub for Disaster Resilience, Universitas Islam Indonesia, or building universities in leading disaster resilience, and co-founded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. All of you in this event can follow the SPMKB-UII platform of Instagram with the username SPMKB-UII. For all participants, we really would like to hear from you and would like to include your voice in conversation. So please ask questions and share comments. Type your question at the chat box below at any time during the webinar, and raise your hand using reaction button after the 3 speakers deliver the presentations. At this point, I want to introduce our featured speaker so we can get into our content. Our key speaker is Michael Fuller. I will share screen for you all. Yeah, Michael has established himself as an expert across the crisis management, resilience, and national security environment in the United Kingdom and internationally, but both as individual and with his business, global resilient partners. Michael is currently working as General Chief of Staff for Public Health England, leading the strategic planning for coronavirus response in Southwest UK. His presentation titled for today is Humanitarian Logistic Strategic Level. The second speaker is Dr. Arif Wismadi, as Director of the Growth Hub Universitas Islam Indonesia, as Chairman of Indonesian Association of Entrepreneurship Accelerators, and Project Manager for Erasmus Plus, ASEAN Network for Green Entrepreneurship and Leadership. Co-founder of Indonesian Trees, a professional association. He will present a paper related to the sister village concept. The last speaker is Professor Sarwidi, that will bring the presentation about correlation between sister village concept and Barataga, or earthquake resistant structure system. Professor Sarwidi is the advisor of BNPB, Indonesian National Board for Disaster Management. He is the inventor and innovator for Simotaga and Barataga. To find more information related to Barataga, all of you can just type in the internet browser barataga.com. Here is the general agenda for today's webinar. Firstly, the presentation session. Secondly, there is the question and answer session. And lastly, closing. All right, for the key speaker, Michael, in Indonesia, we usually add Bapak before the name. So I will call you Bapak Michael. I invite you to deliver presentation for about 20 minutes. The time is yours.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I know I have met some of you before, but it's a pleasure to meet you all this morning from England, and of course this afternoon and this evening in Indonesia.
This morning from England.
And Assalamu alaikum. I'm going to try to share my screen. I hope that this will work, and I hope you can see my presentation. Wing, can you see that? Can people tell me if they can see
Yes,
it?
very clear.
Yes, I can see you.
You can
Okay.
just click the play. That's good.
Good. Okay. So just quickly to make an introduction of myself, and thank you for your kind words by way of introduction. It's very shocking for us here to understand the extent of your earthquakes and crises you deal with in Indonesia on a daily basis in certain areas. And I spoke to some of you during my visit, which is over a year ago now. And of course, we do not have these daily regular occurrences in the United Kingdom. And therefore, I am not an expert on earthquakes, but what I am is I am a lot of experience and expertise in crisis management and the associated logistics for this work. I've spent a lot of time in the British Army, and then for the last 10 years, I've been working on crisis management situations for events like the Olympics, for the Football World Cup in Brazil, the oil and gas industry in the Middle East. I was the head of crisis management in Dubai for the Expo, and more recently, I've been leading the crisis management response for COVID-19 in the southwest of England. So it is with a great privilege and pleasure that I'm able to speak to you today about humanitarian logistics. I've called it resilience and humanitarian logistics at this strategic level. Before I start, I wanted to focus a little bit on some definitions. And humanitarian logistics, it can mean all things to all people. What the focus is, based on the research I did for the definition, is the planning, the organization, delivery, and the warehousing support for natural disasters and complex emergencies to those areas that are affected, to the communities, and importantly, to the people at those levels. The next definition I want to include here is disaster management. And it's been a pleasure working with Wing and colleagues in Indonesia on the area of disaster resilience and helping to implement the centers of excellence at the various universities. The one thing that I would like to stress at this stage is that I think the definition of humanitarian logistics is very much focused at the operational level. So this is about getting the equipment, support, supplies into the country and distributing it. And I think the strategic level, which is what we're focusing on and which I will set this context in, is more about the design and the delivery of life-saving support and the enduring recovery activities, with a focus, a big focus on the need to partner with the country that's affected and with the communities that are affected as well. And importantly, and this is a very big issue, I think, the understanding of, but being agnostic to, I hope you understand that, but not being aligned with religion, culture, and the politics of the country that is affected is very important. And therefore, any humanitarian and logistic support must be almost impartial to those cultural, religious, and political aspects, which I know is difficult. But again, based on my experience, the religious, the cultural, and the political aspects of a country in which you are providing the humanitarian relief and support must be incorporated into every aspect of the planning and of the design. And therefore, with this in mind, there are a number of really important principles that we must consider when we are planning humanitarian and crisis management or disaster management support to areas that are affected by these earthquakes. I think the most important thing is to have integrated planning and design and delivery of whatever humanitarian relief you're going to be putting in place. And when I mean integrated at a number of different levels. So there'll be integration amongst the different partners that will be providing support. There'll be critical integration with the country itself. So in your case, of course, Indonesia, or that specific area or island within that Indonesian continent. And of course, integration and planning and support at the very local levels with local communities. And of course, when we have succeeded in designing the disaster resilience centers of excellence, that will include the university's centers of excellence as well. I think very importantly, the people and the communities that are affected must be at the center of any planning, any operational activities that are undertaken. And this is because we can use those communities, those local areas, as the key agents for providing or understanding the scope and scale of the earthquake in this situation, but also to use their knowledge to support our decision making, so that they have a vested interest in the response mechanisms, and they can design resilience into their own structures based on learning going forward. And of course, because disasters have a different impact on men, on women, on different groups of people that might be ethnically based, might be religiously based, or might be culturally based, we must understand and incorporate an empathetic approach to that response based on gender, based on diversity, and based on a wider assessment of the communities there. Community preparedness and risk reduction is absolutely critical. And what I really mean by this is the raising risk awareness. I think we live in a world where many people, many organizations are risk averse. I think perhaps the world could learn a lot from Indonesia because you are a very risk aware community and culture of people, because you face so many threats and risks of earthquake, of course, but also jungle and forest fires, flooding, tsunami, volcanic eruptions. So you are already perhaps much more risk aware than other organizations and other countries. But the risk awareness and risk preparedness is also about understanding, documenting those risks and providing the necessary mitigation to support the humanitarian logistic effort as and when it is required. Also what is key within this area is to ensure that the right level of capacity is available for support. And that is very important in community preparedness and can be designed against the risks that you will be facing, not just from the immediate impact and risk of the earthquake, but the ongoing need for risk assessment during the crisis situation as well, which may be based on inability to access certain locations. It may be based on the need for certain elements of infrastructure as water, as roads, as power, and so on and so forth. But also, of course, scalability is very important, and the ability to provide the right level of scale to the situation is very, very critical. Rapid and effective response is absolutely critical from a principles point of view. And of course, what we need to consider here is the threats to the ongoing threats based on the earthquake in this situation, to the economy, to the environment, to society and the structures within that society, and designing into that response the necessary level of flexibility to allow the right responses to be provided at the right time and to the right location and to the right communities. Providing the basis for enduring recovery, I think this has got to be considered right from the planning stage, right from throughout the whole scope and scale of the response. We therefore need, as part of any of our planning, to ensure that early recovery assistance is made available straight away from the start, and that there is an ability to conduct what I call a STEP analysis. A STEP stands for societal, technical, environmental, and we could include economic as well in there, and political assessments as to what is the best way to recover and where should the priorities need to be focused on. And that provides us with the ability to focus on the wider communities and their needs in terms of investment going forward. Partnering for success is absolutely critical from my point of view, and this is what we will be building into the disaster resilience framework and the centres of excellence. That is the ability to understand what organisations will be working with each other, right from national level down to the point at which the earthquake in this case has struck. So we have to have a national to regional to local level of partnering. And that may require some degree of memorandum of understanding or service level agreements to be in place already, or to be rapidly put in place to allow that support to be equally understood by partners, but also for those partners to work effectively together. Delivering and measuring impact, ideally delivering and measuring the success of the impact of the response would be very, very important. And I know and appreciate that the local communities have a very, very structured mechanism for fundraising, but we also must understand value for money in terms of the response that we are putting in place, as well as measuring the appropriateness and the relevant levels of support are being focused at the right area at the right point of need. So being able to deliver that and measure that effectively is very, very important. And therefore, any humanitarian logistics response at this strategic level must be results driven, and there must be a measure of efficiency, of effectiveness and sustainability. And really, if we can bring these principles together and learn from them, we have an opportunity to strengthen resilience and preparedness at all levels. And I appreciate very much that my Indonesian colleagues already have good resilience and preparedness based on the threats and risks you face and go through on a weekly and daily basis. And indeed, we are probably able to learn from you around strengthening resilience and preparedness. But finally, is the need for effective communication. And if we can communicate effectively across different levels, so national to regional to local, between different responding organizations, between emergency responders and between the local communities, then we have a very good opportunity to ensure that the right response is delivered at the right place and that there is a shared understanding of the ongoing risk and the requirements for recovery that humanitarian logistic support can provide. But we must also consider, of course, different aspects of funding, resource requirements, any political and cultural situation. Very importantly, we must consider the right level of resilience. I refer to this this slide here, and this is a quote that I designed some years ago, and in the same way that DNA is the building block and essence of life, the resilience is the building block and essence of an organization's sustainability, or an organization or a community's ability to respond and to recover. And it's therefore important as well to understand what resilience really means. And when we consider resilient organizations or resilient communities or resilient countries, we must understand that that is an ability of that organization or country to anticipate, prepare for, and respond and adapt to everything from minor everyday events to acute shocks and chronic or incremental changes. Now, of course, an earthquake can vary from very minor tremors to significantly geographically changing acute shocks. And of course, as well, what we must consider as part of this definition is that there may well be incremental changes as a result of that acute shocks. And this is why disasters and crises transcend all levels of an organization or the country in which they occur. So resilience and our preparedness must be able to do the same in terms of humanitarian logistic response. And when I say all levels, I mean at the national level, I mean at the regional level, and I mean at the very local community level. And we can extend that down to organizations, to groups and teams within the organizations, and individuals within those groups and teams. If we have a genuine resilient individual and society, then we can have a genuine resilient approach to preparedness and response. So some of the challenges and some of the preparations we must consider and put in place are written here. And I think the three big headings that I use are scope and scale and response. The scope, what I mean by scope is the ability to understand the multiple locations that we may have to be considering with regards to our response and planning. There may be, in addition to the primary, in this case, earthquake, there may be secondary, tertiary, or quaternary crises, which we have to consider as well from a scope point of view. And that's why we need to continue that risk assessment process as part of response and as part of recovery. In terms of scale, we need to understand the numbers of people that are impacted on and the level to which the infrastructure may have been damaged. And that gives us an understanding of the logistic requirements relative to both the scale and the infrastructure, so numbers of people and infrastructure, but also relative to the scope in terms of the number of locations that we may be responding to. On response, the four main headings within the response are the immediacy of the response. What do we need to do right away? The sustainability of that response. How do we make our enduring response structures and operations sustainable? What infrastructure limitations may there be? Can we drive to a location? Do we have to fly to a location? Do we have to parachute in equipment to a location? And also ensuring that we have the right political, international and local levels of alignment in terms of understanding roles and responsibilities specific to that response. And to do all of that, there are a number of requirements. We need to be able to plan and deliver at all levels. So the national level, which is ultimately a strategic, perhaps, level of planning, but also at the regional and those local levels. And of course, this is an area that I think a lot of the world can learn from Indonesia because of your expertise, your experience of planning and delivery at local community levels has been well tested. Sadly, I have to say, but it's been well tested and it's known to be effective. Risk awareness, assessment and management is a complete, ongoing, iterative process throughout the response mechanisms. And I use the term intelligence-led response because if we can understand the risks, if we can understand where the impact is, and we can do our assessment appropriately, we can develop intelligence rather than just information, which allows that response to be targeted at the right areas. Structured command, control, coordination and communication, that is what C4 stands for, as I'm sure you are aware, is absolutely critical. And within that construct, understanding who does what, which leads into the need for integrated multi-agency approach. And multi-agency is that combination of emergency responders that is critical to delivering the right response at the right time. Resilience and sustainability of operations, including the funding, as I've already mentioned, is important, but in particular, the ability of an organization to sustain what it is doing over an extended period of time. And of course, that would include ensuring that the local communities are able to live in a sustainable and supported way. Information sharing and situational awareness, I think that goes hand in hand with intelligence-led response, but ensuring that we are sharing information between different organizations. And of course, the acceptance of the national community and the local community in terms of the support that's being given and any agreements that need to be put in place are very, very important. And by acceptance, what I mean as well is the ability of any responders to accept what that local community is able to provide by way of understanding and response. And in order to do much of this work, I'm going to click through these quickly. And I think some of you may have seen this in other presentations I have done. We must consider a number of elements. The organization or the nation or the communities that are being affected are very important part of the response mechanism, as well as those organizations that would be responding. Intelligence and information will allow us to understand the extent to which or the scope and scale of the situation, and the scope and scale, therefore, of the response mechanisms we need to put in place. That in turn drives our understanding of planning and procedures around those response mechanisms. And of course, we must continue to have an ability to share information in a very timely manner, which of course I appreciate is very difficult in earthquake situations and other major disasters, because there may be a lack of power, there may be a lack of internet capability, which may prevent us from being able to share that information. So there is a requirement for there to be some kind of backup or resilient architecture that is made available. And here in the middle is the key piece in the orange and green, which is around integration. If we can integrate these different aspects, then we can have a truly resilient humanitarian logistics capability. And I think this is my final slide. The significant benefits of this approach, integrating those components and putting in place a resilient humanitarian logistics capability, is that we are communities, nations can become resilient, risk, security, and safety aware, which of course is at the heart of the response we are trying to put in place, which is about saving life and ensuring that there is a safe and secure environment for the victims of these disasters to continue to live. We're able to provide a genuine strategic focus and ensure that the right capability exists at all levels. We can share information effectively and efficiently, and our response mechanisms can be adaptable and flexible, and let's use the term agile perhaps as well, based on the scope and scale of the situation, and based on the ability to deliver in a sustainable way. We must design plans that will be effective across the full extent of the situation and lead into recovery as well. And our understanding of recovery, certainly in the UK, is possibly not as well understood as your ability in Indonesia to recover from the acute shocks, earthquakes, and other situations that you face on a daily basis. So, based on my experience and knowledge, I am delighted to have been able to speak to you today and to provide this very high-level strategic view of my understanding of strategic level resilience requirements within the need for humanitarian logistics support around the disasters and risks that colleagues face, and in particular, based on this webinar, the earthquake situation. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time today. Wing, I do have some time to speak and answer some questions if anyone would like to ask some now, but I do sadly have to leave in 4 or 5 minutes.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. You mentioned so many things related to definition, humanitarian, logistic, disaster management, principle, and benefit of integration and resilience. In the chat box, there is 2 questions. The first question is, what are the challenges facing humanitarian logistic research in nowadays? And then the second one, what are your proposal to increase communication effectiveness among donors during disaster emergency?
Can you repeat the first question, please? I didn't quite hear the first question.
Yeah, the first question is, what are the challenges facing humanitarian logistics research in nowadays, related to research?
Related to?
Research.
Research.
Yeah.
Ah, research. Okay. These are very good questions. Thank you. The challenges around humanitarian logistics and research, I think that one of the big challenges are in many parts of the world, we perhaps don't understand when the disaster is going to take place. I think perhaps in Indonesia you have some fantastic capabilities around understanding how how and when and where a crisis such as an earthquake would impact because of the technologies that you are able to apply there. But I think therefore some of the challenges around research are probably based on our risk aversion approach, but also around perhaps our levels of academic understanding and the divisions of responsibilities that we can put in place. And I think one of the pieces of work we are doing with the universities in Indonesia is to design, as part of the supporting capabilities that your universities will have, is to design that level of understanding and research and learning, of course, which goes hand in hand with research, into the perhaps the curriculum, but into the capabilities that the centres of excellence will provide. So I think the key challenges are perhaps risk awareness and making sure that we have a risk awareness approach, but also ensuring that we're able to share information, whether that be academic information or whether that be learning from previous incidents, and of course exercises and test events. In terms of communications, I think this is a significant challenge, because quite often, sometimes there is a reluctance to share information, or we perhaps simply forget to share information, I think is the first thing. But I think if we are able to understand the worst case scenario in the situation in an event of a crisis, then we are able to also design the best case solution from a communications point of view. And of course, the worst case scenario would be no power, no telecommunications, no broadband. So we can design solutions, technical solutions that would allow us to share information by providing independent power sources, independent communication capabilities, independent broadband and Wi-Fi capability as well. So I think we have some very good opportunities to increase the ability to communicate. And of course, when we say communication, we also mean media awareness, social media platforms, news and media platforms, TV platforms. So there are lots of different mechanisms for sharing information. I hope those have answered your questions.
All right. The second question from Ferdian Firdaus: how to strengthen logistic management in an archipelagic country where at the same time many people don't have the option to move from prone location in outside island to safe location due to culture, work, etc.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm now reading the questions. I'm sorry, but no, this is a very good question. Because in an archipelagic country, lots of islands, as I understand that means, I think there's two areas. I think there is logistics leadership, which is a challenge because we should have a focused single point of leadership, but this might be difficult if there are different locations. And I think the second thing is disparate management solutions across different locations and communities is also very difficult to put in place. But I think if we have a shared understanding, a common understanding of the risk, if we have a clear command, control, coordination, communication structure as well that is clearly understood, and if we have an understanding of the division of responsibilities of different response organizations and emergency responders, then I think we have a very good opportunity to ensure that the humanitarian logistics management can be continued, can be sustainable across those different areas in Indonesia in particular.
All right. Do you still have time, Mike?
I have to go to another meeting, I'm afraid. But I tell you, if you are able to capture the questions and send them to me, Wing has my email address. If you're able to capture the questions, then I can respond by email to you, and we can share that information.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. That already present humanitarian logistic strategy level. It was a really awesome presentation. Let's give applause for Mike by providing directions. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And I would like to say, everyone stay safe over there and enjoy the rest of your evening. And I will try and stay dry and warm in England.
All right. Thank you. Hopefully next time we can share. We can invite you in another occasions. All right. Let's move to the second speaker. I invite Dr. Arif Wismadi to deliver the presentation for about 20 minutes. The time is yours.
Thank you, Pak Ihsan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Please allow me to share the screen. Please check if the screen is appear in your side. Can you see that, everybody?
Yes, Pak Arif, it's clear.
Okay, thank you, Bu Dwi. Again, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning and afternoon for our partner in Europe and for our partners in Indonesia. Very welcome, welcome to Build Consortium and other community members who has been joining the session since the beginning of the session. The first session was deliver the strategy concept, and my turn somehow talking about tactical level. We're talking about insufficiency of resources to support the situation when disaster strike us. And now we are talking about sister village concept. This is not entirely new concept or even not new concept. What we are going to do or want to discuss today is actually to slightly advance the sistership, not only in the village level, but maybe down below in the family level. Why this is important? We will discuss about several aspects or problems and then discuss about possible solution. So in the presentation, I will tell you all and discuss with you about possible solution that we can do for addressing the problems. And then we discuss about the sister village concept and actually what are possible mechanisms to advance the existing sister village concept. And then some concluding remarks for your notes. The first, the problems. This not happen only in Indonesia. When the disaster strike us, when disaster crisis come, so people will come into shelters and they just stay together. And during COVID now, it's even more critical because people are sleeping together, maybe very limited accommodation, very limited services. And it's happened not only in Indonesia, but in many places in Indonesia, in India, Pakistan, even New Orleans, when Katrina struck, and then in Iraq, in Venezuela, Mozambique, Tuvalu, Japan, even Japan. Situation is not much different. Well, of course, the level of a disaster will be different, and the capacity of the country to provide a decent place for stay will be different. However, it can be addressed with with some attempts actually, and actually currently there are some attempts to provide like a decent shelters. Many places, many area, many innovators has been trying to develop very nice foldable building that we can bring into the disaster location, and then we can build up within 1, 2, or 4 hours. Or even some place in other area, they use the hotel to stay, but there are some issues. It looks nice, but sometimes it's very costly, and then also very demanding in terms of transport and logistics system, because you have to bring from the factory into the site, and of course there is uncertainty on its availability. Maybe the stock is limited, and maybe the place is far away from the location of disaster. So the question is, what are the possible alternative approach actually to provide decent shelters in efficient way? So again, the purpose of discussion is to share ideas or to provide alternative approach to provide decent shelters, which is available at every time and even without transporting the construction material. So in SPMKB study and for the case study, actually we are discussing the disaster-prone area of special province of Yogyakarta. As you all noticed that actually in Yogyakarta, Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta or DIY, special province of Yogyakarta is very much a disaster-prone area. Why? Because our region is part of a Pacific ring of fires. When actually the volcanoes go through the line, and make a nice ring of fires, and Jogja is part of this location. And the other side, actually, we also surrounded by a place that the subtraction plate of Indo-Australia and Eurasia actually met together there. So that's why in the southern part of Indonesia, like we have today, this morning, very early morning, we have shaken by the earthquake. So this figure actually showing that we are very critical in terms of disaster-prone area. And if we recall the situation when the earthquake in 2006, which is actually very close with eruption in the north, 15 May. So where people thinking that when earthquake is coming, it's come from the eruption. But in fact, at the time, the earthquake is come from the south, from the south. Even the rumor of tsunami in the south has pushed away people running away from the south to the north. And people from the north thinking that what is happening is from the north. So people become displaced. So people displaced to disaster event from the north going to the south, from the south going to the north. So it may happen many times, especially like what's happening now when Merapi is very active. In the very prone area, at level 3 prone area, they have to go down. Where are they going? Actually, they're going into sister village. Why sister village? Sister village like a sister of their village, that if something happens, they will move to another village. This is a very nice concept. However, maybe we can learn that even though when area of sister village has been provided, but still problem is remaining. Even there is a sister village, very often that they will be occupy the shelters, which is not really designed for life. So in many places, it still happen. They have a sister village, but no decent place. So then the question is, could we provide a decent stay for these refugees? So first, talking about sister village, I think everybody in this room already understand that to increase community resilience, sister village has been developed. It's not new concept. And even currently, there are more than 42 sister villages in surrounding the area. However, the sister village that has been provided with 27 evacuation shelters from actually serving 19 villages in the most prone area of Merapi, for example, like the level 3. But have you noticed that Merapi is not active every day? Sometimes the period within 4 years. So during the 4 years, sometimes the building become vacant. And the effect is many places of evacuation place become damaged. Not damaged because of the use of the building, but because they are not using it, they are not maintaining it. So the question then, how could we provide sister village with such problems? More importantly, how to provide sister village with decent place for refugees to stay. So this is just illustrate the problem become more critical when the Merapi is erupted and COVID is coming. So they will stay all together, maybe ignoring the protocol for the health. So many places they preparing like a shelter, and inside the shelter there will be like a compartment. So people will be living in the compartment. But the question, are they still have a nice, decent stay in this kind of compartment? Maybe the question, no. So what the proposed approach for the sister village, actually we try to develop the sister ships, not only the village level, but down into family level. So actually we designed that every family have their sister family in the other place, and maybe not only one sister family, but more than one. So why this? Because why is it important? Because we'd like to make sure that when the strike happen and disaster come all together in the same, let's say, in their family, we can go into another family. So again, about the requirement for the shelter, shelter should be available at any point in time. So anytime shelter should be ready, not necessary for 1 day or 3 days or 1 week after a disaster, but every time should be available. And then the shelter should be utilized even when disaster is not striking. And then shelter should be flexible for variation of use to allow sufficient use. And then shelter should provide economic opportunity in the sister village, and shelter should increase the quality of the environment of the sister village. And the answer for this problem or this requirement is we propose to have concept of one home, one pavilion. So one home of one pavilion aims to provide decent place to stay for refugees and solve the problem in the existing sister village. So again, this the idea is to improve the quality or the level of sister village in terms of preparedness and resiliencies. First, maybe the home design, the pavilion design, the one house, one home, one pavilion design. There is some design requirements. For example, it should be flexible for one unit of family, especially when disaster strike, because the place, the room should be suitable for one family, maybe family of with member of 3, 4, or 5, or 6. However, when in the normal mood, it should also fit for a single occupant. So it's mean slightly flexible and dynamic. The room can be occupied with 1 or even 6 people inside the room, and could be sufficient enough. And then the sufficiency, not only about physical sufficiency, but also privacy. So we have to design the room with the sufficient privacy for both the host and the sister family. And then again, for the income generating mode, we have to able to provide quality, satisfactory quality, especially when we use the place for stay, not only for the disaster mode, but also for normal mode or even in income generating mode. So the answer is first, we have to develop the place, the room should be very flexible enough and dynamics, or using a flexible and dynamic furnishing and furniture. And then also we have to design degree of sharing on the use of space and access to the bedroom, kitchen, and other amenities. And then about the quality of furnishing in the pavilion service should be satisfy commercial visitor, especially when income generating mode will be on. So here's an example. This is from my student. So we have a group of students. Thank you for Pratama and Amin. I selected some of their design. So I could present the idea of home design that should be flexible and dynamic furnishing and furniture. So in this case, actually in the normal mode, it can be occupied only by 1 or 2 people living in the room as a normal mode. But when the shelter mode or disaster modes come, actually it can be occupied by more than 4 or 6 or 7. This is the first example, and the second one also during normal mode and shelter mode, we can actually retract or we can pull some bed below the other beds, and we can turn the wall into the bed. So in this case, we increase capacity for 2 or 1 people into 6 people. So in this case, we can see that the home design pavilions should have such kind of flexibility and dynamic furnishing and furniture. And then in terms of degree of sharing, this is from Ansori and Kasadiki. Thank you for this to student who has been working very hard to put or generate idea of different type of sharing. The first one, it's include the place for living, also for small cooking or pantry, and then a place for shower and toilet. The other one is a bit, we'll say, not expensive, but very luxurious. However, it may able to generate more income when the disaster mode is not on, normal mode is not on, but the income generating mode is on. Why? Because it can be turned into homestay, and the homestay is quite big. So maybe the whole family member can use this place as a visitor or tourist who would like to go to Yogyakarta, for example. Okay, that was the design. The second one, where does funding come from? There are two issues of funding. The first is investment. The second one is about the revenue generation. The first investment, one possible option is using self-funded. Maybe people who already have sufficient fund and they are willing to help the other family. They can have self-funded renovation for one of their room, providing with access, with a toilet, with a small kitchen. And then the second one, when the sister village is not really a rich community, is it still possible? Yes, it is still possible, because the government already have a program of government subsidy for stimulus fund housing facilities. So for people who would like to improve the quality of the place, the house, they can provide stimulus or bantuan stimulus for improving the quality of houses. This is about the investment. The second, revenue generation. Of course, people who do a self-funded, they also have financial or economic interest. So when the disaster strike and disaster mode on, or BNPB or local BNPB, also able to provide a kind of incentive for people who have a pavilion, so they can pay for the rent, maybe very cheap, but sufficient for maintain the building. And of course, we can include insurance system. Therefore, the system will be supported by, and it could be nice if the stimulus fund has kind of requirement. If you would like to improve or receive the money to improve your houses, maybe there is kind of maybe the, let's say, pavilion system should be considered as one of the requirements. And it is nationwide. It is nationwide. It's not only in Yogyakarta, but many places, including Wakatobi, they get in average 17.5 million subsidies. Actually, for renovation, it should be sufficient to provide like a toilet and other amenities. And then the other things that quite important is how to maintain sistership, because some people maybe it's not very convenient if people who stay is someone who actually they don't know at all about the family. Currently, there is kind of a program for sistership, but based on a formality. Because it has been decided as a sister, then they have to make like maybe every monthly meeting, so they know it all. But there is no economic motivation. So our proposal here, actually, we should deploy entrepreneurial framework to maintain the sistership. For example, in the first example is the bamboo farmer village actually could make a good link with the bamboo craft shop village. And then there is a program to improve the quality of the product. And then they have a nice relationship. Actually, they kind of production and trading activities. Also, for example, a coffee farmer village, the sistership actually with the coffee shop village, which is many coffee shop has been developed currently, and they can provide the supply for coffee and even help them to sell through the internet and through the network of coffee shop. So this is about the sistership maintenance. The other one I would like, or the last one, I would like to touch about the humanitarian logistic support. So for this kind of scheme, actually we can have an opportunity to improve the humanitarian logistic support. Current logistic support always rely on the field warehouse. So they will drop, the truck will drop everything in the field warehouse, and then they distribute to the beneficiaries or the population. In this case, actually, one of possibility, we can cut the field warehouse. So actually from the shop or from the local procurement, they can go directly for every houses. So maybe using night delivery, so they can drop the support, logistic support. So this process become clean and neat, and actually the database has been provided to make sure that they know who are living in this place. The other option actually can have like humanitarian vouchers to access neighborhood retail shop. So instead of providing them like logistics goods or goods that deliver from the local procurement, we can just give them a voucher, and they can choose which shop, which errand, which necessity that actually they can pick up from the shop, and then they can select based on the family needs, family demands, and we can have it in a digital way instead of analog way. So the last one about the remarks, again, refugees need decent place to stay, and sister village concept could be advanced to provide decent shelters. And the proposal that we deliver here is one home, one pavilion is proposed to address the residual problem from the current sister village implementation. The third, to scale up this concept, it requires a collaboration among government program and agencies. I think Mike just mentioned about this collaboration between agencies, including the BSPS program. This for stimulus programs, and also humanitarian program, including BNPB. And then one other concern is actually HOP requires community capacity, especially to maintain the quality, to achieve the objective, and to maintain the impacts. We need to train them somehow. And then the other part is we can use entrepreneurial framework to be applied to maintain the citizenship among villages and families. Therefore, last one, OHOP is an alternative concept to increase the community resilience. So I think that's all that I would like to share in this discussion. I'm waiting for any additional idea that maybe anyone could deliver in this forum. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Pak Arif. It was really amazing presentation related to sister village concept, which provide alternative approach. There will be a question and answer session after the last presentation from Professor Sarwidi. I invite Professor Sarwidi to deliver presentation for about 20 minutes. The time is yours.
Thank you very much. Could you hear my voice?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, thank you. And I would like to share my presentation material. That would let me check. Oh no, not this one. The other one. Here. Okay, thank you very much. Good morning and good afternoon, good evening, because this is I see the list of participants could come from any countries like in Europe and also Japan. I saw from Japan too. And thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My topic today is about relation between the concept of sister village and Barataka. So thank you, Mas Iksan. And I could, because this is a very short presentation, so I would like to make a short presentation. If any question later you can raise, and I will try to answer in the short time. After we make a preface, and I would like to tell about the national system of disaster management and disaster management principles, bottom-up disaster management effort for us, and then about sister village and Barataka. What is the correlation? I try to correlate them, and this is the clausule. Okay, in the Indonesian law number 24/27, it get mention the disaster or disaster hazard could be three: natural, non-natural, and social. I think natural is very clear, but non-natural is look like a COVID pandemic today is the kind of non-natural disaster. And we focus and narrow for the natural disaster, and I try to classify to the three. This is geological dynamics, climatological process, and hybrid. And there's here in the geological dynamics we have a lot of kind of disaster hazard, for example, as earthquake, volcano, tsunami, maybe more. And in the climatological process, we have inundation of flood, flash flood, and cyclone. Yeah. And in hybrid, we can talk about land movement, landslide, yeah. Lahar, flash flood. Maybe it could be others are liquefaction, etc. Yeah, we have all. But I focus here in earthquake and also during the hazard, multi-hazard, because could be disaster, could be not only single, yeah, maybe it could be many disaster in once. For example, today, we just get earthquake shaking today, then fortunately that something very light, yes, not moderate, but light because it's far in the out of the source of Java Islands. So, for example, if there is a hazard, for example, hazard today is in near volcano in my village here in Kaliurang, we have three now. Yeah, actually three hazards, yeah, volcano, COVID, and earthquake too. Because earthquake would be very broad, because not only in here close to earthquake prone, but maybe little bit far, it could be also getting effect of the earthquake shaking. Yeah, and now go to the national system in disaster management after the law of 24, 27 in Indonesia. We set up the national system that the component consists of 6 components: legislation, institution, budgeting, planning, science and technology, and lastly is the implementation. And if you can see, because the system, we would like to move from the old paradigm to the new paradigm. We would like to go from the system itself. For example, you say before the old paradigm, it would be now, some now it still also applies. Yeah, disaster management as we see, and we can see from the point of view consumptive. So look like that disaster management is using money and then finish like that. This is the old paradigm, and still many people now, most people in Indonesia still think about that. So therefore, the disaster management application is only incidental, focus on emergency response and a sector and sporadic too. And while disaster disaster management law and number 24 would like to move from old to new paradigms. That is, how management could be see as an investment for the future. Yeah. So we try to spend some money to what we call it as to make a greater wealth, and also to save many other maybe money that we lost for the future. So therefore, we look like to be disaster management and participative, comprehensive, integrated, and systematic. Yeah. And we saw from the law number 24, there is a principle of disaster management in Indonesia. Many, but I would like to focus only on number 6 and number 7. That is about partnership and empowerment, because this is a relation with the sister village and how to raise or to increase the relationship in the earthquake disaster, especially. So when we set up the system, and then there is a BNPB in the level of national, and BBD at the level local of province, and agency as well as municipality. Yeah, there is approach from bottom up. And if we would like to, the goal of BNPB should be national resiliency. So it could become from the individual, and individual make up a family, and then family mean a resilient family, and then resilient family look at resilient village, and then become a national resiliency. Yeah, resiliency. Yeah. So this is look like that. I'd like to explain to brief make a picture how to develop the national resiliency come from the individual here, and then if we have concept the sister village, also I apply it, right? Because individual make up a individual resiliency is a very important to make up the resilient family, and then resilient families yes would like to have resilient village and become this. Lastly, the goal is the national resiliency. For example, here in the concept of disaster resilient village, yeah, we call it Distana Indonesia concept. Yeah, concept what is concept is including many aspects at how to apply the local resources and how to mainstreaming to the DRR, disaster risk reduction, and also of course how to increase the capacity of the society as well as the government. I mean, to increase the capacity of all aspects, and then to reduce this mean how to reduce also the vulnerability. Also in the concept of the disaster village come from a disaster resilient village come from the concept of disaster resilience family. Yeah, family. If the family is okay, and then resilient, of course, it's easier to form the resilient village. We call katana. Yeah, keluarga tangguh bencana. Concept of disaster resilient family. The goal is how to spread the socialization and practice that the people could know and practice how to be before disaster, during disaster, as well as after disaster. They should know the measure, the knowledge and measuring for the training and measuring. Okay, and if we focus on the earthquake disaster risk reduction, we reduce the risk, yeah, because the disaster management now the approach is by using disaster risk reduction (DRR). To reduce disaster, of course, if would be hazard would be reduced. Second, if the vulnerability is we decrease the vulnerability and increase the capacity, of course, here. Yeah, for the earthquake disaster risk reduction is very difficult to control the hazard because earthquake will come and they work for themselves. Yeah, for earthquake themselves because there's a function to balance the energy of the tectonic plates collision. Yeah. So the hazard is very difficult to handle, control in the case of earthquake. So that why we only try to control too, yeah, because this is very difficult to control. Yeah, control is very difficult. So the rest only control vulnerability and capacity. Yeah. So that why the calling in earthquake we call mitigation. Mitigate means to try to govern the vulnerability and capacity, not the hazard. Okay, next. I focus on the how to reduce the vulnerability because if we reduce the vulnerability as well as of course to increase the capacity here, yeah, also. But mostly I focus on the how to increase the vulnerability. Yeah. Okay, here is the sample. Yeah, in the earthquake disaster risk reduction in the field, in the field, that in actual field in Indonesia, especially the field from the until the village or rural area, in earthquake-prone area, mostly Indonesia, most area of Indonesia are prone to earthquake shaking, earthquake shaking. Maybe 2/3, 2/3 or 70%, maybe more of that are very prone to earthquake shaking. So earthquake-prone without Baratagar or other concept of earthquake-resistant houses. For example, if there is a big earthquake, strong earthquakes, and the house, especially the house of people, it's not resilience, it's not resilient, it's not resist to earthquake. Of course, it could be damaged or maybe collapse. And the collapse produce the people could die, And then it would be injured, and then we lost not only loss of life but also loss of property. Because of the strong shaking, earthquake not kill the people, but people killed by the ruin or collapse structure or house. This is would be we now try to cut the change of earthquake disaster. Come from the hazard, become disaster. We can cut it. But how to cut? Cut it like this one. If, for example, there is a big earthquake too, strong earthquake, and we have a concept of Barataga or other earthquake resistant. Barataga is bangunan rumah rakyat tahan gempa or earthquake resistant houses. We have a philosophy and we have a concept, about the house, and especially in Indonesia because Barataga mean only one story houses, simple houses having masonry walls like that. If we could bring Barataga, we could apply the Barataga. Of course, even a big earthquake is only minor damage, and then will not make people die, not make people injured, even not make lots of property. So we can limit the property about that. So like this one, village, and then we have village could be village hit by disaster in the sister village, right? Sister village mean there is a main village that hit by disaster and another partner village. It comes from also family, individual, as well as partner village. It have family and individual too. What should be resilient, right? Even the main village and the partner village should have concept of resilient village. And resilient village come from the family resiliency. And then family resiliency come from the resilient individual. Okay, so as a consequence of my story, that sister village, both sides, main village and the partner village, should be Distana. Distana means what? Should be disaster resilient village. Distana will not fully applies, will not apply if concept of disaster resilient family katana does not work. The concept of katana will not fully apply if their houses are not resilient. So applying the system of Barataka could make the house is more resilient to earthquake shaking. So the as a closure, there's a correlation. The application of Barataka or other earthquake resistant building concept of course is better when if its concept is better, the sister village concept will be more effective. Vice versa. If the house is not collapsed, so because there is in the concept of katana, is the family resilience, family resilient, disaster resilient family. The concept, one of the factor is about the physics. The people okay, and the surrounding is okay, but the house itself is very important. If we could not make the resilient house make that katana will not be formed. We cannot develop katana without any good earthquake resistant houses. So this is look like that's mandatory. Mandatory. I gave you some an example here. When I did with my college, my Aswar Asia, Pak Wing, etc., Professor Nurkois and Professor Widodo, etc., and many other lecturers and other assistant and my students, yeah, and UIA. I teach the mandor. Mandor, yes, the construction workers. Yeah, grassroots construction worker. I teach the mandor, and they built the Barataka concept house. Yeah. So this could be a stunning Barataka house surrounding the ruins of regular houses in the 2006 Yogyakarta earthquake disaster. Yeah. In 27 May of 2000, the year of the 6. In Jajaran Wonosobo Bantul, it's not only one. We have two example of the very contrast. Yeah. Well, Barataka is still standing, and the rest in the surrounding is very good destroyed. That may kill the people is not earthquake, but the house here. If, for example, we could make Barataka, yeah, for example, another concept of us, because not only Barataka, another concept also has. Then I think we can minimize the earthquake disaster. I mention again that because earthquake do not kill people, but collapse house here will kill the people. If we don't have collapse house, mean the people safe. So sister city, sister village. So both of them are supply like this. In not, for example, multi hazard during other disaster, and then coming when the people in the main village moving to the partner village, but the partner village going that there is an earthquake. So we have problem. Thank you very much, and let's us work together. And thank you. Bring back to the time to us, Iksan. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Sarwidi. Thank you. It was an excellent presentation related to correlation between sister village concept and Barataga. We still have time, about 20 minutes. Now I invite all participants to ask questions and share comment. We really would like to hear from you all. You can type a question at the chat box or raise your hand using a reaction button. You can use English or Bahasa. All right. While we waiting for someone to raise a hand for the question, we have some question here for Dr. Arif Wismadi. I would like to ask two questions. The first one, on the topic of refugees management, which do you think is more effective, the host incentive policy, Dana Tunggu Hunian, which keep supervised survivor flexibility in choosing temporary shelter, or the sister village policy? And the second one, in your opinion, how many pavilions should each village have to accommodate refugees? And then for the question for Professor Sarwidi, in the new disaster paradigm, mitigation is an investment. How should this paradigm be adopted into our housing and land use policies? And what is the biggest challenges we are facing today? All right, I'll invite Dr. Arif Wismadi first to address the question, and then I will invite Professor Sarwidi to address this question.
Okay, thank you so much for the question. Yeah, the first question about competition between the Tumbuh program. with sister village. Well, I would like to compare not only the sister village, but the sister village with a hub, with one house, one pavilion. I think we are not in the position to compare both, but actually to synergize, to combine these two programs. Why? Because the Dana Tumbuh actually providing fund to let alone the family to choose the type of accommodation or stay with money. However, the problems when they only have the Dana Tumbuh, it's not really sure that they can have a sufficient or decent place to stay. That's why actually we should combine the OHOP programs or OHOP in the sister village with this Dana Tumbuh. Why? Because actually they can use the money to pay rent for this OHOP family. In this case, actually, when we provide the pavilion, actually we are investing. So again, similar with what the new regulation in Indonesia regarding the disaster, we are about investing. So pavilion is one of investment that can be used by the owner of the house, the family, to get money from renting out through, let's say, Airbnb and other platform. But during disaster management, actually they can receive the Dana Tumbuh payment as maybe not all, partly, because partly made for other purpose, but part of the Dana Tumbuh can be provided to the owner of the pavilion. And the second question about how many pavilions should be provided in the village. Yeah, this is the question in the village. Okay, how many pavilions should each village have to accommodate the village? Actually, the idea of a hub as one home, one pavilion is every home, every house, every home and every house should provide it with the pavilion. So this program actually government could provide incentive actually even during the EMB process. If a host have dedicated, not dedicated, one of the room could be converted into a pavilion, maybe they can have incentive, whether incentive taxation or incentive regarding the process. So it will make sure that Indonesia have a sufficient pavilion. So when this other part is damaged, they can move to another part of the area or the other cities, other villages, and etc. So this is the idea of concept of one home, one pavilion. So it can be self-funded investment or combining with the government incentive. So I hope it is answering Pak Ferdion. Yeah. Thank you, Pak Ferdion Firdaus, for raising this question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Pak Arif. I invite Professor Sarwidi. All right.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, the question is about the paradigm. That is not easy. Yeah? Paradigm is not easy because we try to move the culture. Yeah? There is a relationship with the culture, the habit, yeah? etc. The most difficult here but the question is the paradigm. Yeah, how to actually that. We would like to form that people is because the thing that disaster management is an investment, right? For example, in the house, the people is not now. Many old people now, of course, is not aware about that. The awareness of the earthquake disaster is very small. Even if we just sell the house, put the house, there is no staying inside. There is no steel. There is no construction that make earthquake. People like to have that one. They don't want to. Usually, there is not. Is that okay? Is that safe or not? Is that strong enough? No, but This is good or not, good looking or not. This is the people. But we just optimistic because in my museum, yeah, I tell about the people from the early year children, yeah, children from PAUD, yeah, from elementary school until the people big. It's different. And when come to museum, usually the old people be pessimistic. But for the youngest people, no problem. I tell them, hey, or you, and when you are getting older later in the future, would you like to have a resistant housing? Yes, because if I don't use resistant house, I will be killed by that house. So it's different, yeah, different response. So that's why we need time. Of course, then we need time. Even if we do work better, so the time will be shorter. But if we just making relax, yeah, there's no dating, it will make it longer, yeah. So the challenge is the awareness, yeah, awareness. But the positive, the hope of us is that because many children now it's easier to change their paradigm. We cannot change the old people. Even we get debate and try to defend themselves, opinion, opinion of themselves. But the kids, it is easier. So let us go to the school. Yeah, we have to go also in the school, which we have to socialize importance of the earthquake house. If not, and then every day you will have anxiousness. Yeah, you will have depression because you don't know earthquake when come. Maybe long, maybe short. Yeah? We don't know. So this what I think about the question answer of this question, Mas Saleh. Thank you, Mas Ican.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Sarwidi. I saw that one of the participants raised hand, Wisnu. You can unmute if you have a question or another participant. Yeah, Rizky Dwi Herawati. Yeah, please unmute and then you can. Hello, Rizky. Rizky Dwi Herawati, do you have a question? Or another participant, if you have a question, just unmute and then you can say what is the question. No, I can't hear Rizky voice. Is there any participant have a question? You can unmute because I can hear a Rizky voice. All right. While we still waiting,
I think Rizky is talking, but we cannot hear him because he's typing, asking about. Yeah, but we can wait for he's fixing this his equipment while waiting for the others.
All right, because we still running with the time, I will invite Pak Arif to provide a final remark as well as Prof. Sarwidi because while we still waiting for the question. All right, please, Pak Sarwidi, Pak Arif first.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Pak Isan. So I think it's very important to make sure that the quality of the implementation of the sister village concept has to be advanced. Not only seeing them as a program with projects, but the program with the initiative and movement. because what we currently have maybe still in the phase that the concept is there, but still many room for improvement, especially like what also Pak Sarwidi mentioned, that the resiliency and sistership at the village level should be goes down into family level. So therefore, the program for family sister family should be realized in term or should be implemented by providing a decent place for stay for their sister family in the other village. And this one could be not only one-to-one relationship, but maybe one family could be have more than one family sistership. Why? Because disaster is we never know about the disaster. Sometimes it goes into same families and their partners or the others one. That's why we have to anticipate in the most possible feasible way. The investment is not so big because actually they develop for their own, and the place could be very decent for the people who affected by disaster. And there are also possible economic gain by implementing the OHOP concept. Therefore, again, the concept is investment instead of spending the money for disaster event. So I think this is the thing that I could share. Thank you, Pak.
All right. Before Prof. Sarwidi giving the last remarks or final remarks, Rizky Dwi Herawati, if you have questions, could you please unmute? Rizky Dwi Herawati. Okay, maybe there is a problem with his device. I will invite Prof. Sarwidi to provide a final remark, please, Prof. Sarwidi.
But okay, but Rizky Herawati now is already unmute. So could you speak? I think that you have already unmute, raise hand. Is there any problem for your equipment?
Or you can type maybe.
Oh, okay, type. Maybe type, yeah. Okay. I'll try to make a closing statement for me that we know that in fact that especially in many countries like Indonesia, so many hazard potency to become a disaster. Yeah. It is a fact, multi-hazard. So sometimes there is not only one. Right now, we have at least two in the earthquake hazard prone, like earthquake and pandemic. Yeah. In Merapi, there is three: pandemic, COVID, yeah, earthquake, and volcano. Yeah. So actually, this is the fact that our countries many hazards. So and disaster will not come when we prepare. I mean, the disaster coming, waiting for our preparation, no. But we have to prepare to face them because anytime can come. Yeah, it's better we prepare by anticipation. Second, are the risks very difficult to find to change the paradigm, yeah, to change in the new paradigm, yeah. It is we hope it is hope it good for the people, the young generation. It's much more easier in my survey. It's much easier to change to become aware to the disaster. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Sarwidi, then Dr. Arif Wismadi that have already provided final remarks. On behalf of Bapak Michael and then Bapak Arif, Bapak Sarwidi, as well as the team at this webinar, thank you for joining us and taking the time to view our presentations. So, my name is Nurul. Pak Wing, is there any final remark from Pak Wing? All right.
I think I have enough to say. Thank you so much, Pak Iksan. Just go on.
All right. Thank you very much. I leave it to Master of Ceremony, Miss Aida.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Ihsan, Michael, and Pak Arif, and also Prof. Sarwidi for the wonderful session. Before we end this event, I would like to remind all of the participants that we have prepared the e-certificate. Let me share the screen. All right, so here is the QR code.